All right. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to Industry Exchange. I am your host, Meghan Jones, and we are here today for actually our last Industry Exchange of 2019. Can you believe it? We are wrapping up this year with quite a bang, and we are actually starting with film. We are going to be talking with the gentleman here to my left, Gerry Maravilla, and he is working with Seed&Spark. And if you want to find out more on, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Sorry, we're having some technical difficulties in the background here. But he is the head of crowdfunding at Seed&Spark, which is both a crowdfunding and distribution platform for filmmakers like yourself. Hopefully you guys are tuned in out there. So be sure to check it out at seedandspark.com. And Gerry is also a filmmaker. So if you want to check out any of his work, you can check him out on Instagram or his website. And that's Gerry with a G, because he's a G, that's right. Gerry. And we'll have that information for you looped into the YouTube when we post this for you guys later. So thank you for being here, Gerry. Really appreciate it. We've worked with you guys a couple of times through our Film Fest. Mm-hmm, that's right. So really excited to actually get to talk to you a little bit more and go in a little bit to more depth. But can you tell our lovely audience just like a little bit of background on yourself, how you got into film?
Yeah, I grew up actually in the San Fernando Valley here, a suburb of Los Angeles, and just kind of fell into film by accident a little bit. Because
funny, in LA of all places, you fell into it by accident.
Well, I didn't realize that they made movies here until I was much older, and so might as well have been like on a different planet for all I knew. But I went to Occidental College in Eagle Rock actually, and took a film class, even though I was a political science major. Okay. And then I was assigned to write like this paper on vertigo about color for 10 pages, and I thought it would be like impossible. And by the end of it, I think I had written like 15, and then I just kind of felt like, oh, I think I want to do this.
And so writing was just like, was that your jam more than?
No. I started creative writing. I always liked that as a kid. I would write stories and like comic books and things like that, but the tech side of filmmaking really felt completely alien to me. And so kind of undergraduate degree, I had the opportunity to like really dig my hands into the cameras and learn editing software and all that kind of stuff. And I just felt like there was a whole world of new possibilities that opened up from that. And
those new possibilities is kind of like what attracted you to film in the first place?
Yeah, well, I always saw film as being, like an equalizer, something where a lot of people could come together. I don't know, my dad was born and raised in Mexico. I was born and raised here, so there can be, different sides of the family, different cultures, different upbringings. And film was something that kind of like united everyone I saw. And then on the political aspect of things, I felt like films had a stronger ability to kind of influence people's ideas and their perceptions of things that like a politician or something that's overtly political couldn't otherwise do, because people kind of like shut off sometimes if they see it.
Yeah. So describe like your journey as an independent filmmaker thus far, if you could for me. Break it down.
Yeah. Well, after I graduated, I started working basically as a production assistant in any job I could for all different departments.
Everybody kind of does, right? You'll take any job you can kind of get.
Totally. And worked on all different sizes. I got to work on the independent film Beginners. Mike Mills movie is like my first thing that I worked on. And then to like working on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, like in the production office on one of those seasons. But as I was gathering all this information, I kind of felt like the kind of films that I wanted to make and the subject matters I wanted to make them about wasn't really going to fit into that model. So I actually left the country for a little bit and lived in El Salvador for 7 months with a friend.
Okay. That'll put some perspective on things, I think.
Yeah, and like tried to like just ingest like the year plus of industry experience I had, and then when I came back, wanted to just find a different way to do things and like tried to do things on my own independently. And just find different avenues that could bring the stories that I wanted to tell to life. I had this film I really wanted to make called Cross, about a Filipino-American kid who gets into backyard boxing in a predominantly Latino community here in Los Angeles. And I was trying to find financing, and I was always told like two things. One, there's no money in short films, and two, there was no money with casts that looked like mine.
Oh.
And kind of feeling that was bullshit.
Yeah.
You know?
BS, kiddos. That's
BS.
bullshit.
I saw that Emily Best, who's the founder and CEO of Seed&Spark, was teaching a workshop at Film Independent about crowdfunding.
Okay.
So I went and really found the things that Emily taught to be really things that I could put into practice and like execute myself. It didn't feel like unattainable, like I'm not Zach Braff or Spike Lee or don't have a property like Veronica Mars. So it's like those were the crowdfunding campaigns that I was aware of, but she really laid it out in a clear way. So I was able to launch my campaign, raise the money, complete the film. It's played at around like 10 festivals across the country.
That's amazing.
And then I was really honored when they reached out and offered me a position, like kind of helping filmmakers and giving them feedback on how to better run their crowdfunding campaigns.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We are speaking with Gerry Maravilla, and he is with Seed&Spark. And he's here to share with you industry tips, best practices. So be sure to share this live stream when we're all done. If you're an aspiring filmmaker, make sure you hashtag Raw Artists or hashtag Industry Exchange and send us your questions. We want to know. So let's get right to it. Funding a film. Let's say a filmmaker has a vision, a script, but not the finances, I guess, to make it happen. Let's talk solutions.
Yeah. Basically, I always try to break it down into like two different tracks or like ways to think about it. And I think one, which is the most important, is like who is the audience for this film?
Yeah.
Often I think traditionally in art making spaces, artists create things in a vacuum, and they're like, I'll push it out into the world and then figure out who was going to watch it or like want to partake in it. And that's increasingly challenging as there's much more art people have exposure to. If you can really think about who is going to pay for this to watch it and who really wants to see it, you're kind of putting yourself ahead of the curve, because in any sort of independent arts career, the only two things you have control over really as an artist, despite changes in technology and economics, is ownership over your IP, which is like, your thing that your vision, your brainchild.
Your intellectual property, which we learned about in a previous industry exchange episode.
And then the other one is the direct communication with your audience. So if you have an audience of people who support what you do and you own the thing that you're making, then you can continue to like have a living.
Yeah.
So it really is in your benefit to think about, okay, who is this for? And to really think about outside of demographics, unless you have a multi-million-dollar studio marketing budget.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got those all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't seem attainable for most people. Just thinking about who is going to watch this and where can I start to reach them, whether in the online space or in the real world.
Okay, so how would how would one figure out like a budget to create? Like, to create their film? Where does that kind of start?
Yeah, so that's the next track, or the different ideas to think about how much you absolutely need to move the project forward in a meaningful way. So sometimes you might not always know. You might have like a feature-length script, and maybe it's like a science fiction script or something, and you're just like, I have no idea how you make this happen. But can you break it into smaller chunks?
Okay.
And then try to think about like, well, maybe for like $10,000 I could hire a casting agent and hire a line producer to like break down the budget for this, and then maybe an attorney or whatever, like if you're thinking like larger scale. So then it's like, okay, I know that you have this particular set in mind, and then you can start to try to fundraise either through crowdfunding or traditional financing to just get you to that next hurdle. So really just instead of trying to like take on the whole film by of itself, really thinking about how much do you just need to get it into like smaller, manageable steps to get going.
Little bite-sized chunks, just kind of keep that going. Okay, so we talked about if you have this vision, you have a script, are those the things that you need to, have prepared before you seek funding, or sometimes not to put the cart before the horse?
Some filmmakers are able to raise without having a script necessarily.
Really?
They have a treatment or an idea. There was one filmmaker who was one of the first filmmakers to raise on Seed&Spark named Liam Brady, and he was like working a ton of part-time jobs, but he had like this detailed treatment, and he launched a campaign, and he's like, hey, if I raise this money, I can actually quit one of those part-time jobs so I can actually write the script.
Dedicate the time.
And he was very clear in that. And I think with crowdfunding in particular, you want to make sure that you're being transparent with your audience. And just being clear about what the finances are going to be used for, and audiences generally respond well to that.
Yeah.
They don't want to be lied to. And he actually launched 3 crowdfunding campaigns for the same short film called Fog City, and just found that by articulating that clear vision and breaking it up into those chunks, he was able to connect with people and kind of grow his audience along the way.
And that was through the beginning process of just having the treatment, and then once he got to the point of having the script, to then so on and so forth. So multiple.
Mm-hmm. So the first campaign was to write the script and figure out the budget. The second campaign was for actual production, and being able to pay cast and crew. And then the third campaign was for wrapping up post-production and being able to do film festival submissions and stuff, because all that kind of stuff costs money.
What would you say? We have a question from the audience.
Sure.
So any financial mistakes you made in your first couple of films? That's an interesting, speaking of finances.
Yeah, I would think that luckily it was very hard to secure higher end financing. Before I crowdfunded, I really wanted to make sure that the story and script were as tight as possible.
Yeah.
And I think prior to that was really maybe thinking bigger than my ability or skills could really match yet. And so kind of a mistake was sometimes getting frustrated or not pursuing an idea because I just assumed I couldn't afford it, rather than trying to figure out how to do it with less, or how to break that up into doing something smaller. If I can't make the whole movie, can I shoot a teaser trailer with a DSLR or smartphone or something like that with some friends and see if that helps clarify or crystallize things. So just trying to be as resourceful as possible and not necessarily believing that money is the only way to get something done would be some financial mistakes I would have made.
That's a very interesting financial, to not spend, not think of, I have to have, $1,000 to do this, kind of DIY style.
Yeah, I think that's definitely in the spirit of a lot of the filmmakers that influenced me, and just kind of from my background and again the stories I kind of want to tell, that I didn't really see another avenue. I don't have some rich uncle to call to be yo, can you fund my projects?
Yeah, that's too bad. We don't all have those in our back pocket, unfortunately. Yeah. Okay, so what's the? We've got some more questions coming in from the audience, but I do want to know what's the biggest surprise, I guess, about the process to a first-time filmmaker, do you think? Because I think, everybody a fan of film, and you think, okay, I have this great idea, and you're conceptualizing it, but one of the first things, maybe funding aside, that is a big surprise.
Oh, okay. I think something that I've really learned is how key momentum is in terms of getting a project to happen. That was kind of a surprise. It was something I feel is true. It's no one wants to help you until you've proven that you don't need their help.
Yeah.
And then if you are making this thing and it seems like a freight train that's gonna happen, then people come out of the woodwork because they want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And that's true in crowdfunding, and just true in getting something made or getting something done. So the more you can do to pick yourself, rather than waiting on this idea of waiting for someone to pick you, whether it's a financier or a distributor or an actor, any sort of empowerment you can do on your own and ways that you can push forward will help generate that energy and momentum, and then you'd be surprised at who ends up coming on board.
So a question from the audience for you. What was the first film that you saw that I guess inspired you to get into the business? Or we kind of talked about how you got into the business, but I suppose maybe that first film you kind of maybe fell in love with that.
Well, I think as a kid, I was really in love with Star Wars, as many kids are. It just really hit on my imagination. And had collected Star Wars action figures and stuff like that. So so that there was that one. But I think also thinking in terms of a film John Cassavetes, the director, and his movies as I was older really inspired me, because his whole ethos was just he just got his friends together and they made movies happen, and they shot them in living rooms and, in their kitchens and stuff, and did it through favors. And it was just really inspiring for his movies, not only because they packed such a specific emotional punch that I didn't see happening in other movies, but that he just kind of bootstrapped them.
Yeah. Yeah, and that kind of sounds in any aspect, until you believe in yourself, or anything like that, nobody else is going to, right? And
Yeah.
you kind of say like, look, we're with or without you, this is going to happen. So either like come along for the ride or get out of here. Okay.
Yep.
So, so on to maybe like some more words of advice from you. So as an award-winning independent filmmaker yourself, that's right, folks, you heard it here, award-winning independent filmmaker, and the head of crowdfunding at a company that helps filmmakers fund. What do you think successful, filmmakers have in common, like across that goal? You've seen it maybe multiple times throughout these campaigns getting funded. What do you think is maybe a sign of success there?
I think it's the filmmakers who see every element of the production, whether it's the financing and development to the actual shooting to the promotion and stuff and the marketing, is that they see it as an opportunity to like further showcase their storytelling abilities. So like the crowdfunding campaigns that do really well feel like extensions of the film. They're not just like plugging and playing like, oh, a tote bag here and a sticker here. It's like, oh, I'm making a time travel movie, and so I'm going to do like a custom Photoshop image of whoever makes a contribution and place them in their like the place and time that they want to travel.
Is that something that happened?
That's something that someone did for a filmmaker named Sean Mangan for a project called Time Signature. And so that was something that was like, oh, this is really cool and awesome, and it doesn't feel like every other crowdfunding campaign, and making their pitch video the same. It's not the same basic like, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I need to raise money, blah, blah, blah. But it's like opening with like a really engaging teaser or trailer that sometimes they shoot on their smartphone or DSLR that's like, oh, like, I want to see this. This is intriguing.
I want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
In any way possible, even from a viewing perspective.
Yeah. And the same with marketing stuff too. Like how can you make your promotion of the film feel like something unique and special to the story you're telling? Yeah.
And you kind of bring up a couple other aspects of film, the business side of things, right? The marketing and things like that. So what do you think, maybe for somebody who didn't go to film school or, that just kind of fell into, loving film and wants to pursue it, what a good way of learning about those things, like the business of film?
Yeah, I mean, I went to a liberal arts school, which I love my liberal arts education, but it did not really prep me a lot for the business side of stuff. So I really feel like I got the most out of just volunteering to work on as many sets and projects and stuff. Like everyone needs someone to go grab coffee and like run errands and things like that. So that was one avenue. And then another thing I did was just listen to a lot of podcasts and interviews with filmmakers that I liked, and there's so much now with YouTube and on different podcast apps and shows where it just became like a sponge while you're in LA, you're stuck in traffic, right? Driving from one end of town to the other.
One gig to the next.
Yeah. And just listening like, okay, what does this person have to say? What does this person have to say? What was it like behind the scenes of making this movie? And it just felt like all of that information kind of painted a clearer idea of what I could expect.
Okay. Are you working on anything currently? Does your time as the head of crowdfunding give you still opportunity, since you're probably meeting like a ton of filmmakers and like being inspired on the daily? You working on anything right now?
Yeah, I'm trying to. I have Cross written as a feature film, the one about the Filipino-American backyard boxer, and so I've been constantly pushing that. I was accepted into the Stowe Story Labs, which is a writing lab in Vermont that I got to go to this year, and got a lot of cool feedback. And then been rewriting a self-contained horror thriller called The Halloween Club that I want to shoot next year. So yeah, one thing I like from working at Seed&Spark is that most of the people who work there are filmmakers themselves. Yeah. So we all kind of understand, and my coworker Christina Rea, who's in charge of education, she took a couple weeks off last year to go shoot her feature, which is now on the festival circuit and stuff. So there is like this really cool relationship where we can support and help each other's creative endeavors while we continue the work we do.
Yeah. Now let's touch a little bit on, you mentioned the festival circuit, and we've worked together. Raw, had its third annual film festival this year. Is that definitely something is it for everybody? Are film festivals for everybody? Is that something you recommend everybody do?
Film festivals are a great opportunity to grow your audience, but they're not going to necessarily open up a bunch of, money. Like, I think too often creators or the independent filmmakers, they're waiting for all the hard stuff to be over.
Yeah.
Like, some door is going to open and then they don't have to worry about money or whatever it is.
Magic button.
Yeah. If anything, I've learned from talking to filmmakers of all scales is that that doesn't exist. But film, I think it's important to be really targeted with your filmmaking, film festival strategy to get the most out of it. So, they cost money. Submissions cost money. So, you want to submit to a bunch of them, but that's going to cost you hundreds or thousands of dollars potentially. Yeah. So, for my film, I saw that it did well in festivals that were Latino or Asian specific, or in cities like Los Angeles where there's large Latino or Filipino.
That demographic is very prevalent. Right.
So looking to just be much more targeted on that, because if you look at say Sundance, which is a great festival, but so many of those filmmakers, all I have to do is just go through their program and Google them. I'm like, oh, you work at the DGA and you work at CAA and you and so it can start to feel a little disillusioning. But I was in DC at the Asian Pacific Film Festival there, and a packed audience for my short that played before this other feature, and had people come up to me and say how much they liked the film and gave me their email address to follow up with other stuff. And so festivals are a really cool way to get to see other parts of the country and really just grow your audience who want to watch maybe the next thing that you're going to make.
Yeah, that definitely, you're talking about making sure things are niche, you're hitting your target, demographic, your target market. I think apply that to film fests. Yeah,
exactly.
Right? That makes sense.
And email film festival programmers is a good tip. If you can't afford it and you can look on their website, you can see what their email is, ask for a waiver or an exception. You might not always get it, but every so often you do. Or at least they then know your name and the name of your film.
Yeah, and I've found it very effective just to follow up with those people. If you blast that email out once, you're one film of a billion, right, that are trying to get in. So that follow-up is really important. And that's the business side of things that sometimes you don't get to learn, unfortunately. So we had another question from the audience. A couple of questions here coming in.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. Thank you guys for writing in these questions also. We love that. Any filmmakers you find yourself emulating when you work, and why?
Oh, that's a good question. I think certain philosophies around filmmaking I really gravitate towards more. A lot of the older models are the auteur theory of glamorizing the director, which feels like a dictator, top down. And I like filmmakers who are much more bringing people up, with them, and much more community organizers and less dictators.
Yeah.
So I think someone like Ava DuVernay actually is really inspiring, because she went through on her set, on her Instagram, and featured the grip and the gaffer and stuff like that.
People who you're what is a gaffer? I have no idea. Yeah.
So she's someone who I think I like in terms of that method. And then again, back to Cassavetes, just because of how his building a family and community amongst the projects he was making.
His storytelling. So a couple of questions, digital or physical distribution, and then we'll touch on technology, how it's affecting film. So
yeah. Distribution's a really hard one, and it's kind of the wild, wild west out there. Yeah. There's no new normal that's really emerged. I think that some of the larger players, while you have greater access, they're not the greatest for creators on the back end. Unless you are Kevin Spacey or David Fincher making House of Cards, Netflix isn't going to funnel a bunch of money into marketing your project. So I think it goes back to the audience. Who is your audience, and in your communication with them, where do they want to watch your stuff?
Right.
Are they watching everything on their phone? So digital distribution makes much more sense. Are everyone who's interested in the stuff you're making going to their local art house cinema than maybe trying to do a physical distribution like a Blu-ray, Criterion style would make much more sense for your audience.
I actually also found out still that Netflix still does the DVD to home. I had no idea. My best friend still gets that, and I was like, what? First off, what? That's a thing still? Netflix still does it? So, but let's also, before we wrap, talk about technology in film, right?
Sure.
I mean, it's advanced, we're talking about watching a film on your cell phone. We at our film fest have had, the virtual reality, that kind of aspect to it, and augmented reality, all those different things. How is that affecting film?
Well, I think VR was really big in the filmmaking space a couple years ago. It seemed like the new hot thing, and I've seen some really compelling VR projects, and we've had some that have crowdfunded on Seed&Spark. Even we're open to having VR filmmakers, but I think it really comes down to the story you want to tell and what the intention is. Yeah. Technology can be trendy, but it's really at its fundamental base, it's a tool. Yeah. So what's the best tool to tell your story? There was one VR piece that was really compelling about being in the middle of a street suicide bombing, and you're on the headset and you're walking around and everything, and it's really heavy and intense, and I felt a stronger emotional response than maybe I would have had just watching a film, but if you're trying to do a really informative documentary about some really specific niche topic, a VR headset can get tiring to wear for a long period of time. Is someone going to want to wear that for 2 hours? You really have to weigh what your intention is as an artist, and then pick the best tool that fits that.
To influence whatever that is. Yeah, I cannot imagine having to wear a headset for 2 hours. Please, nobody do that.
Yeah, and I have to wear glasses sometimes when I watch movies, so the glasses with the VR headset on top of it, not a good look.
No, also uncomfortable. That doesn't sound good. So, these are so many great suggestions. You guys make sure to head over. You can check out Gerry's work, like we said, on Instagram or on his website. We'll have that up for you. So I don't have to spell out his name, just because I can imagine them frantically writing it out.
Nicely right here, too.
That. Yeah, of course. It's our handy dandy. You guys check that out for you. Thank you so much for being here today to talk about funding films. Any other last minute things that you can, think of that you want to share?
I would think that, just taking some form of action daily is found the best way that I've been able to move forward. It's what can I do today, whether it's writing a page or sending a couple emails, and just that stuff accumulates over time. And kind of that's the only way I think I've been able to do it. Otherwise, it just seems way too big and you don't know how to start, but you just do a few things here and there and ask questions, and you start to synthesize and gather that information and just progress some way or another. There's no straight line for progress.
Unfortunately not. But if you are looking to fund a film of your own, remember to visit seedandspark.com. You can learn definitely a lot about that on there. But we will be live again in 2019, if you can believe it, January 29th, with another industry professional, of course, giving great advice, just like Gerry over here, that you guys can use to further your creative career. Remember to follow us on Instagram at Raw Artists. That's where you can find us, where we go live here monthly. And to find out who our next guest will be, you guys will have to tune in. So until then, happy holidays, you guys. Have a great new year, and we'll see you in 2019. Thanks.
Thank you.